What if the very last thing you put in your mouth tonight could decide whether you still have sharp, clear vision a decade from now? Not in some vague, maybe possibly kind of way, in a direct, biological, scientifically documented way. Because right now, most people have absolutely no idea that while they sleep, their eyes are running one of the most intense repair operations in the human body. And what you eat in the hours before bed either fuels that repair or starves it. Tonight, I am going to show you exactly what your eyes need, why they need it, and the 5 specific fruits that deliver it at precisely the right time. Let me paint you a picture of a typical evening. You finish dinner, maybe grab some chips or crackers, settle into the couch, watch something on your phone or television, and eventually drift off to sleep. Completely normal, completely harmless looking. But here is what is actually happening beneath the surface. For the past 16 hours, your eyes have been under siege. Light has been hammering your retina. Screen radiation has been generating wave after wave of oxidative stress. Tiny molecules called free radicals have been tearing through the most delicate tissue in your entire body. And now, as you fall asleep, your eyes finally get their chance to heal. But if you fed them nothing useful before bed, the repair crew shows up to find the shelves completely empty. Your retina consumes more oxygen per gram of tissue than any other organ in your body. More than your brain, more than your heart, more than your kidneys. It is a metabolic furnace that burns incredibly hot all day long. And like any furnace, it produces waste. Every photon of light that hits your retina triggers a chemical reaction that releases damaging byproducts. Blue light, which floods out of every screen and LED bulb in your home, is especially destructive because those photons carry the highest energy in the visible spectrum. By the time you close your eyes at night, your retina is not just tired, it is genuinely damaged, and it needs specific raw materials to rebuild itself before morning. Here is what most people do not know. Overnight, your retina runs a process called outer segment renewal. The cells behind your photoreceptors, called the retinal pigment epithelium, literally reach out and engulf the damaged tips of your light-catching cells, digest the broken material, and feed fresh building blocks back so the photoreceptors can regrow. Every single night. Without this process, your photoreceptors would degrade within weeks, and you would go completely blind. It is one of the most extraordinary repair cycles in all of human biology, and it depends entirely on the nutrients circulating in your blood during those critical overnight hours. The timing of all this matters more than most people realize. The deepest, most restorative phase of sleep, which happens in the first 4 to 5 hours after you close your eyes, is when retinal repair activity peaks. If the right nutrients are in your bloodstream before you enter that window, your retina heals efficiently. If they are not, the damage from the day accumulates. Not dramatically, not in a way you would notice tomorrow morning, but multiply even a tiny nightly deficit across 365 nights a year, across 10 years, and you end up with measurable, irreversible decline in your vision. Small choices, made every night, compound into enormous outcomes. That is the reality nobody is talking about. So let us talk about the first fruit, and I want to be clear that this one deserves to be the foundation of your entire nighttime eye routine. Tart cherries. Not the sweet cherries you find at the grocery store in summer. Tart cherries, sometimes called Montmorency cherries or sour cherries, and they do something no other fruit on this list can do. They are one of the only meaningful food sources of melatonin on the planet. Not a faint trace. A clinically significant, measurable amount that studies have shown can raise blood melatonin levels and improve sleep in real human subjects. Now you might be thinking, melatonin is a sleep hormone, so what does it have to do with my eyes? The answer is going to surprise you. Your retina does not just respond to melatonin from your brain. It produces its own melatonin locally, inside the photoreceptor cells and the retinal pigment epithelium. This locally made melatonin acts as the master timing signal for the entire overnight repair cycle. It tells your photoreceptors when to shed their damaged segments. It tells the cleanup cells when to begin their work. It synchronizes the whole operation like a conductor keeping an orchestra in rhythm. When melatonin is abundant, the repair cycle runs on schedule. When it is low, the timing becomes sloppy, cleanup falls behind, and toxic debris called lipofuscin begins to accumulate. Lipofuscin is essentially cellular garbage. It is the undigested remnants of damaged photoreceptor material that the retinal pigment epithelium could not fully process. Over time, cells loaded with lipofuscin become dysfunctional, and when they die, they take the overlying photoreceptors with them. This is the cellular foundation of macular degeneration, the leading cause of irreversible vision loss in people over 60. And here is the part that makes this urgent. After 60, melatonin production declines significantly, both from the brain and locally within the retina. Tart cherries provide an external source that directly supplements this declining supply, helping to keep the repair cycle running on time every night as you age. But tart cherries are not a one-trick fruit. They are also packed with anthocyanins, the deep red pigments responsible for their color, and these specific anthocyanins cross the blood-retinal barrier and accumulate directly in the retinal pigment epithelium, right where the overnight cleanup is happening, right where antioxidant protection is most desperately needed. They neutralize the free radicals released when damaged photoreceptor material is being digested, protecting the cleanup cells from being destroyed by the very debris they are trying to clear. A clinical study found that tart cherry juice increased sleep duration by an average of 84 minutes in older adults. More sleep means more time in the deep repair phase. More repair time means more complete nightly restoration. The practical form is simple. 1 teaspoon of unsweetened tart cherry juice concentrate in a small glass of water, 60 to 90 minutes before bed. That is it. The second fruit is one that most people in North America and the Southern Hemisphere have never tasted, and that is a genuine shame. Bilberries. They look like blueberries from the outside, but cut one open and the difference is immediately obvious. A blueberry is pale green or white inside. A bilberry is deep purple all the way through. Every single cell is saturated with anthocyanins. This is not a cosmetic difference. It means bilberries contain 3 to 4 times more of these compounds per berry than blueberries. And the specific types of anthocyanins in bilberries have a documented affinity for ocular tissue. Studies using radiolabeled compounds have actually tracked them moving through the body and found that bilberry anthocyanins preferentially concentrate in the eyes at higher levels than most other tissues. Once they arrive in your eye, these compounds do something remarkable. They accelerate the regeneration of rhodopsin, the visual pigment inside your rod photoreceptor cells that allows you to see in low light and to adapt when lighting conditions change. Every time rhodopsin absorbs a photon of light, the molecule breaks apart. It has to be reassembled before that photoreceptor can work again. This reassembly happens primarily during the dark hours when your eyes are at rest. And bilberry anthocyanins enhance the enzymes that drive this process. They also stabilize the newly reassembled rhodopsin molecules so they last longer before breaking down again. The practical result is better night vision, faster adaptation from bright to dim environments, and a general sense that the world looks clearer and brighter. These are not subtle effects. They are measurable, documented, and they become more significant as you age and natural rhodopsin regeneration begins to slow. Bilberries also contain compounds called proanthocyanidins that specifically strengthen the walls of your retinal capillaries. These are among the smallest and most fragile blood vessels in your entire body, 1 cell thick in places, and they are extraordinarily vulnerable to the kind of slow damage caused by oxidative stress, elevated blood sugar, and chronic inflammation. Even if you have never been told your blood sugar is problematic, levels in the high normal range can cause measurable damage to these vessels over decades. Bilberry proanthocyanidins reinforce the structural scaffold of these capillaries, reduce leakage, and even improve the ability of red blood cells to squeeze through the narrowest vessels and deliver oxygen to retinal tissue that might otherwise go underfed. A clinical study found that bilberry extract produced measurable improvements in retinal microcirculation that doctors could literally see when they looked into patients' eyes. The most accessible form is bilberry powder, which you can stir directly into your tart cherry drink before bed. The third fruit is going to surprise you, because it does not look like an eye health food. It does not have dramatic color or a long history of being recommended for vision. But the science behind it is genuinely compelling. Kiwi fruit. A single medium kiwi provides more than 100% of your daily vitamin C, and vitamin C is not just a general antioxidant when it comes to your eyes. It plays a role so specific and so essential that your eye has developed a dedicated system to concentrate it. The fluid inside the front chamber of your eye contains vitamin C at levels 20 to 30 times higher than your blood. Your body deliberately, actively accumulates it there because your eye uses it as its primary defense against the oxidative damage that would otherwise turn your lens cloudy. That clouding process is how cataracts form. Proteins in the lens called crystallins become oxidized, they clump together, and the lens loses its transparency. Vitamin C neutralizes the free radicals that trigger this oxidation. The Nurses' Health Study, one of the largest and longest-running nutritional studies ever conducted, found that women who consistently consumed vitamin C from food sources for 10 or more years had a significantly lower cataract risk. The protective effect was linked specifically to long-term daily intake, not to short-term supplementation. That finding alone should change how you think about your nightly food choices. But what makes kiwi particularly powerful as a bedtime food is that it also improves sleep itself. A study found that eating 2 kiwis an hour before bed significantly improved how quickly people fell asleep, how long they slept, and how restoring that sleep felt. You are not just supplying the building materials. You are extending and deepening the construction window. Kiwi also contains meaningful amounts of lutein, the carotenoid that builds up in your macula to form the protective pigment that filters blue light. It contains vitamin E, which protects the fatty membranes of your photoreceptor cells from a damaging process called lipid peroxidation. And it contains serotonin, the precursor your brain uses to make more of its own melatonin overnight. When you eat 2 kiwis before bed alongside your tart cherries, you are essentially stacking multiple sleep-enhancing and eye-repairing mechanisms on top of each other. You are working with your biology instead of against it. Eat 2 ripe kiwis about an hour before sleep. If you can tolerate the texture, eat the skin too. It contains concentrated vitamin E, fiber, and polyphenols that the flesh alone does not provide in the same quantity. The fourth fruit is one of the most beloved and widely consumed in the world, yet its specific eye benefits are almost never discussed in Western health conversations. Mango. A single cup of sliced mango provides roughly 35% of your daily vitamin A requirements. And vitamin A is not merely helpful for your eyes. It is biologically non-negotiable. Without it, vision fails completely. In your retina, vitamin A is the direct precursor to retinol, the light-sensitive molecule at the heart of both rhodopsin and the cone pigments responsible for color vision. Every time one of these molecules is broken apart by light, retinol must be recycled and reattached. During sleep, when your retina is rebuilding its entire visual pigment stockpile for the next day, the demand for vitamin A reaches its daily peak. If the supply falls short, you wake up with a visual system running below capacity. What makes mango truly unique is a compound called mangiferin. It belongs to a class called xanthones, found almost exclusively in mangoes and a handful of tropical plants. And it has been shown to protect retinal pigment epithelial cells from oxidative damage by activating the body's master antioxidant defense switch, a pathway called NRF2. This is the same pathway activated by some of the most potent plant compounds known to science, and mangiferin accesses it specifically within the retinal pigment epithelium, providing targeted protection exactly where overnight repair activity is most concentrated. Mangiferin also inhibits the formation of advanced glycation end products, the sticky, damaging compounds that form when blood sugar reacts with proteins throughout the eye. These compounds cross-link with the structural proteins of your lens, your retinal blood vessels, and the membrane beneath your retina, causing progressive stiffening and dysfunction that contributes to both cataracts and macular degeneration. Mango is also one of the better fruit sources of zeaxanthin, the carotenoid that concentrates specifically at the very center of your macula, the point of highest visual acuity where you focus when reading faces or fine text. Zeaxanthin at this location filters the most energetic blue wavelengths and provides the most concentrated antioxidant protection to the cone cells responsible for your sharpest, most detailed vision. A major study found that higher dietary intake of zeaxanthin was associated with significantly lower risk of advanced macular degeneration, independent of other nutrients and risk factors. That specificity matters. Zeaxanthin is doing something at the center of your macula that nothing else can fully replicate. 1 cup of fresh or frozen mango chunks, which are available year-round at most grocery stores, gives you a meaningful dose of all of these compounds in a form your body absorbs efficiently. The fifth and final fruit requires a small distinction because it matters. Not regular oranges. Blood oranges. On the outside, they look similar, but inside their flesh is a deep red purple because they are the only commonly available citrus fruit that produces significant quantities of anthocyanins. This single difference transforms them from a good source of vitamin C into something genuinely exceptional for eye health. The reason comes down to a chemical interaction. Vitamin C regenerates anthocyanins after they have neutralized a free radical. Without vitamin C, each anthocyanin molecule can neutralize 1 free radical and then becomes inactive. With vitamin C present, the anthocyanin is recycled back to its active form and can go to work again. And again. And again. A single anthocyanin molecule in the presence of adequate vitamin C can neutralize dozens of free radicals instead of just 1. In a tissue as oxidatively stressed as your retina, that multiplier effect is enormously valuable. Blood oranges also contain a flavonoid called hesperidin that specifically tightens the junctions between the cells lining your retinal capillaries, reducing leakage, and helping to maintain the integrity of the blood-retinal barrier. This barrier is what keeps damaging molecules in the bloodstream from entering the retinal tissue and what prevents visual information from being obscured by fluid accumulation. A 15-year Australian study that tracked over 2,000 adults found that those who ate at least 1 orange daily had a 60% lower risk of developing late-stage macular degeneration compared to those who never ate them. 60%. The researchers attributed this protection specifically to the flavonoid content, not just the vitamin C. The combination of hesperidin, anthocyanins, and vitamin C working together in blood oranges creates a level of vascular protection for your retina that regular oranges simply cannot match. 1 blood orange before bed, or its freshly squeezed juice, is the finishing piece of your nightly routine. Now here is how to bring all 5 fruits together into something you will actually use. The evening eye repair smoothie. Blend half a cup of frozen tart cherries, 1 tablespoon of bilberry powder, 1 ripe kiwi peeled and sliced, half a cup of frozen mango chunks, and the juice of 1 blood orange. Add half a cup of water for consistency and blend until smooth. Drink it 60 to 90 minutes before bed. That timing is deliberate. It gives your digestive system enough time to break down the fruit and begin absorbing the bioactive compounds so that by the time you enter deep sleep, The nutrients are at peak concentration in your bloodstream and actively being transported into your ocular tissue right when your retina's repair machinery is running at full capacity. If the smoothie feels like too much volume before bed, split it across the evening. Mango and kiwi with dinner, tart cherry juice with bilberry powder stirred in, and a blood orange on the side an hour before sleep. Either approach works. What matters more than the exact form is the consistency. These compounds do not produce dramatic overnight results. What they do is accumulate in your retinal tissue over weeks and months, progressively building up your macular pigment, strengthening your antioxidant defenses, reinforcing your retinal capillaries, and supporting more complete nightly repair with every passing night. The benefits are real, they are documented, and they are entirely within your control starting tonight. Your eyes worked incredibly hard today. From the moment you opened them this morning, they were processing, adapting, focusing, and filtering an unrelenting flood of light and information. Every single one of the trillions of photon strikes that hit your retina generated some degree of oxidative stress. Every hour in front of a screen added to the inflammatory burden in your retinal tissue. Your eyes did all of that without complaint, without rest, without asking for anything in return. Tonight, while you sleep, they get their one chance to repair. The only question is whether you gave them what they need to do it. Tart cherries to synchronize the timing. Bilberries to rebuild the visual pigments and strengthen the vessels. Kiwi to power the antioxidant shield and deepen the sleep. Mango to restore the vitamin A supply and protect the pigment layer. Blood oranges to amplify every antioxidant in the system and guard the vascular integrity that keeps the whole operation alive. 5 fruits. 1 nightly habit. A lifetime of vision worth protecting.